Have you ever executed what felt like the absolute perfect trade, only to watch the market violently hunt down your stop loss and instantly reverse exactly where you predicted, leaving you staring at a blank screen wondering what deep, unwritten rule of the game you completely missed? The trade was perfect. You had marked the zone 3 days ago with absolute precision. Price returned to it at exactly 6:47 a.m. You entered clean, placing your protective stop loss safely below the structure. By 9:15 a.m., it had taken out your stop and reversed exactly the way you predicted, leaving you behind. You closed the laptop. You don't know what went wrong. That's the part nobody tells you. You won't know for another 2 years. It all begins at level 1, the map reader. Someone on YouTube draws 2 simple boxes on a chart, one where price shot up from and one where it dropped hard from. That's demand, he says, and that's supply. It makes complete sense. In fact, it makes more sense than anything you've encountered in 6 months of trying to understand why markets actually move. You begin to mark zones on every single chart you can find: EURUSD, GBPJPY, crude oil, gold. You draw the boxes with meticulous precision, capturing exact candle wicks and clean horizontal lines. Your desktop has 4 beautiful monitors now, which you proudly bought before you even made a single dollar trading. The zones look real. They are real. You just don't know yet what real actually means. Your first 10 trades win, not big, but they win. You screenshot each one and post them in a Discord server. 18 people react with a fire emoji. You read those notifications 3 times over. You don't know what you don't know. That's not a flaw at this level. It's completely structural. The system is protecting you from information you're not equipped to use yet, the way a human body goes into shock to prevent intense pain from killing it. What this level costs is the clean version, the version of this journey where everything stays simple. It will never be this simple again, and you'll spend years chasing the feeling of those first 10 trades when the boxes were just boxes and the market was just a puzzle with a highly visible solution. If you want to skip this painful phase of trial and error and fast-track your edge, click below description to discover the algorithmic tools that change how you view these zones. 3 months in, you reach level 2, the Zeus marker. Now you have a strict system: fresh zones only, institutional candles, and raw origin points. You've watched 200 hours of content and synthesized it into a dense 4-page PDF you made for yourself, which you've already revised 11 times. Your win rate is exactly 34%. You know this because you track every single detail in a spreadsheet entry: exit, zone type, time frame, and result. The data is clean and the conclusion is absolutely brutal. You are wrong 2 times out of 3. But the losses feel random and the wins feel like pure skill, so you keep pushing forward. The hidden rule at this level is simple: the zone is never the edge. Everyone can see the zone printed on the chart 12 months ago, and every retail trader with a basic charting platform has it marked. What you don't know yet is that the zone is where the hunt begins, not where it ends. Price doesn't come back to zones to graciously give you a trade. It comes back to zones to collect stop losses from everyone who marked the same level you did. You blow your first account on a random Wednesday, $3,400 gone. Not in one trade, but in a panicked sequence of revenge trades after a bad morning, each position slightly larger than the last. By 2 p.m., you have $180 left, so you close the platform and go for a long walk. You don't tell a soul. You fund a brand new account the following Monday, telling yourself the loss was just tuition. That's true, you just don't know what the tuition was actually for yet. What this level costs is your first theory about yourself, the one where you believed you were inherently different, the one where you thought you possessed a natural instinct for this. You bury it quietly and build something else in its place, something far more mechanical and less personal, and you tell yourself that's growth. Maybe it is. Then comes level 3, the structure student. You completely stop trading for 6 weeks. You go back to basics, not YouTube basics, but real book basics. You read Wyckoff's original text, not the summary, and you read it twice. You take detailed notes by hand because someone in an online forum said that heavily helps with retention. You begin to see something underneath the zones, a deeper logic, not just where price reversed, but exactly why it had to. You ask yourself what had to be true about the underlying order flow beneath the candle for that move to happen. The zone was never the cause, it was simply the symptom. The cause was something much older and less visible. Your charts naturally become quieter. You delete 3 indicators, you mark fewer levels, and you're far more specific about why each single one exists. You start annotating not just the zone, but the live narrative. What happened before price reached this level? What would it need to do to confirm an entry? What would completely invalidate the entire read? You are slowly becoming a fundamentally different trader than when you were at level 2. Not better yet, just different. You've traded false confidence for productive uncertainty, which is significantly harder to live with, but infinitely more accurate. The exact moment that shifts everything at this level is not a massive winning trade, it's a losing trade that you completely and flawlessly understood. Price comes to a demand zone, you enter with a clear logical thesis, it fails, and you know exactly why it failed. You close at your stop, you don't revenge trade. You simply write 3 sentences in your journal about what the price action told you that you failed to account for. No screenshot, no Discord post. That is the true shift, not the win that contained professional loss with a clear postmortem. Something deep in you reorganizes itself that day, and you won't even notice it until weeks later. What this level costs is urgency. You used to trade every single day, now you wait. Some weeks you don't take a single trade. Your friends who trade ask how you're doing, and you simply say, waiting for a setup. And they don't understand why that's a real answer. You used to not understand either. For an exclusive look at the exact institutional framework we use to filter these structures live every morning, click below description to join our elite trading community. By level 4, you become the order flow reader. You find the gaps, not the zones, the hidden gaps inside the zones. The fair value gaps, the imbalances, the specific candles where institutions left their heavy prints on the chart like a hand pressed in wet cement. Now you're reading the market the way a seasoned cardiologist reads an EKG. You are no longer looking for a basic shape that matches a pattern. You are reading the raw rhythm underneath, the slight hesitation before a massive move, the distribution cleverly disguised as accumulation, the stop hunt that was never going to become a real reversal, which you know now, by the way, volume behaved in the preceding 4 candles. Your journal is now 340 pages long, and you've reviewed it 3 times. You know your edge exists because you can see it statistically validated across 200 deeply annotated trades. You also know it only works in highly specific conditions, specific sessions, specific volatility environments, and specific market phases. Outside those exact conditions, you don't trade, you sit and wait. People around you don't understand what you do anymore. You try to explain it once at dinner and watch their eyes completely glaze over after 90 seconds. You don't try again. The hidden rule at this level is that the market is not a puzzle to be solved. It's a living system that constantly changes as more people solve parts of it. The edge you have today has a definitive half-life. You can't see it decaying. You can only discover afterward that it already did. You make money 3 months in a row, not spectacular money, but consistent, quiet money, the kind that compounds without noise. You don't post it anywhere. You're not entirely sure why, except that showing it feels like it would cost you something you can't quite name. What this level costs is community. You've naturally drifted out of every trading group, every Discord server, and every chat room. Not because you're arrogant, but because the conversations there are about things that don't matter to you anymore and haven't for a very long time. There are fewer and fewer people who can meet you where you actually are. You eventually step into level 5, the probabilistic. You completely stop thinking in terms of individual trades. You think strictly in terms of distributions. Any single trade is just random noise. 100 trades is a clean signal. You've internalized this completely, not just as an intellectual concept, but as a deeply felt truth. This means a losing trade creates the exact same internal, neutral response in you as checking the weather. It's just data. It's expected. It's already fully accounted for in the math. Your position sizing is engineered, never estimated. You know your exact historical drawdown, your maximum consecutive losses, and your precise recovery expectancy. You risk exactly what the mathematics says to risk, and not one single dollar more. Not because you're disciplined in the motivational cheerleader sense, but because the alternative is innumeracy. And innumeracy is wildly expensive. You comfortably manage $2.3 million in open positions before 9 a.m., and absolutely none of it feels like real money anymore. That's not bravado, it's a structural problem you haven't looked at directly yet. The cost of this level announces itself very quietly. You're out at dinner with your partner. She says something that would have made you laugh out loud 2 years ago. You don't laugh. Not because it isn't funny, but because the part of you that used to respond to things like that spontaneously, without calculating the response, has been quiet for a while. You've optimized so much of your internal psychological process that something human accidentally leaked out through the optimization. You notice this the exact same way you notice a live position moving against you without panic, with cold assessment and with a mental note to revisit it later. That's the real problem. What this level costs is the amateur's joy, the raw, electric adrenaline of a winning trade. You remember what it used to feel like, but you don't feel it anymore. You're significantly more successful and substantially less alive in this specific way, and you've made a private peace with that trade-off that you've never actually agreed to out loud. At level 6, you become the architect. You don't just trade the system now, you build it, stress test it, and hand parts of it to other people to cleanly execute. There are 2 funded traders running your exact framework across different international sessions. You regularly review their journals. You see your own early painful mistakes reflected in their annotations. You correct them smoothly without a hint of condescension, because you remember exactly what it cost you to unlearn those exact same things. The market is a completely different object to you now than it was at level 1. It's not more complex, it's just more accurate. You've entirely shed the basic vocabulary of retail support, resistance, trend lines, and what replaced it is something far harder to transmit to another human. It lives in a form of pattern recognition that operates significantly faster than verbal articulation. You see things develop on a chart and you know the outcome before the knowing is even verbalized. Someone flies all the way in from London to spend a day with you. He's been trading for 9 years. He's genuinely good. Inside of 30 minutes, you can see his exact blind spot. He's been heavily optimizing for a market structure that completely rotated 18 months ago. His edge is real, but it's actively diminishing, and he simply doesn't have the data architecture to know it yet. You don't tell him in those exact harsh words. Instead, you casually ask him 3 specific questions over lunch and let him reach the conclusion himself. He does, halfway through his second cup of coffee. He goes completely quiet for a moment. That quiet is deeply familiar to you. You've spent months in it yourself. Power at this elite level is never loud. No one who actually matters is impressed by your win rate. The people who would be impressed aren't even in the room. The people in the room are strictly tracking the quality of your reasoning, the speed of your calibration, and the size of your blind spots. They're not looking at your short-term results. They're looking at exactly how you think when you are dead wrong. What this level costs is certainty. At level 1, you were absolutely certain about the zones. At level 3, you were certain about structure. Now, you are certain about very little, and the little you are certain about keeps a smaller and smaller perimeter around it. You know infinitely more, yet you hold it all much more loosely. This is correct, but it's also incredibly lonely in a way that has no real name. Level 7, what's left? There is a large window in your private office that faces directly east. You've had this exact office for 4 years and you've never once sat at the desk by the window. You've always sat with your back completely turned to the light. One quiet morning, you finally move to the window seat because your main chair needs to go to the repair shop. You sit there and you work, and at some point you casually look up. The morning light is coming in at a sharp angle across your trading screen, and it's not beautiful, exactly just there. Present in a way you weren't expecting. You sit with that feeling for a brief moment. Your automated system runs. Your framework systematically generates signals. The 2 traders on your team are smoothly executing in London and Singapore. The positions move, the capital compounds, and the machine you originally built from a random YouTube video about 2 boxes on a chart runs. Rebuilt through 17 painful iterations, burned entirely to the ground twice, and rebuilt again, it runs flawlessly without your attention. Mostly. A direct message comes in from a trader you've never met who found your framework through an old forum post you wrote 3 years ago. He says it completely changed how he approaches the market. He says he's incredibly grateful. He's attached a chart with his own annotations and asked one highly specific question about the origin of a supply zone he's identified on the weekly chart. You look at his attached chart. His annotation is wrong. Not badly wrong, just wrong in the specific, telling way that reveals exactly where he currently is in the process. He's seeing the physical zone but not the actual story before it. He's reading the symptom and calling it the cause. You remember that exact feeling, though not entirely clearly the way you vaguely remember the layout of a house you grew up in as a child. Not the fine details, just the general shape of it. The absolute certainty that the boxes were the final answer. The clean, uncorrupted pleasure of a system that seemed completely perfect. You write back exactly 4 sentences, not the answer, but the next logical question, the one that will force him to look at the chart completely differently, the one that will cost him 3 weeks of uncomfortable, deep reevaluation. It's the question that you would have done absolutely anything to have been asked at that stage, and that someone should have asked you, but didn't. You close the laptop. The light is still coming through the window, the east-facing window you've had for 4 years and never sat by before today. You think about why you never sat there. You don't arrive at an answer. You make coffee and it's the exact same coffee you've made every single morning for 9 years. You drink half of it. You've never liked it much. You've just never stopped making it. Somewhere out there, there's a novice trader who just drew 2 boxes on a chart, and it made complete sense to them, more sense than anything they've seen in months. They have absolutely no idea what those boxes are about to cost them. You did not know either. That was the only way it could have worked. To secure an exclusive discount on the ultra-low fee brokerage platform I personally use to execute these high-volume institutional structures without getting eaten alive by hidden commissions, click below description and protect your edge today.